Welcome to my program, Bashy's Corner. We invite politicians, cultural personalities, sports people, anybody who has something to talk to or tell us, which normal mainstream media does not take or wish to take. On 3rd of December 2015, Denmark is having a referendum. It means that politicians are going to ask the public if they want to say yes or no to those opt-out Denmark had from many years. Personally, I am actually in favor of a stronger coordinated European Union. I found out when I started working in Brussels. But it's not about my choice. There are people who will vote no, there are people who will vote yes, and that is why I have invited one very passionate pro-EU person who believes that European institutions should be more powerful and do their work. Welcome to my program, Jens Kristian Lütken.
Thank you.
You're welcome. From European Movement in Denmark. Could you tell my viewers what is this European Movement in Denmark?
It's a pro-European organization with members from all political parties. We all agree.
Including the Red-Green Alliance?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But we are open for them as well. As long as you believe in a stronger European cooperation, you're very welcome in the European movement.
Okay.
And we inform about the EU cooperation, and we also campaign when there's referendums. For instance, this one we're going to have in December.
I know that there is an office here from European Commission.
Yes.
But they're not so visible in the public, you know. They only send press releases and that's it.
Yeah, that might be true because they are more official than we are. We are an NGO with a lot of passionate people, whereas the Commission's office is, one could say, more an office of bureaucrats.
Okay. Are giving information.
Giving information and giving the official information, whereas we also tell about our own opinion.
Yes. As I said, that you are a member of this International Committee for European Movement in Denmark, and can I assume that you somehow represent this yes lobby? Am I right?
Yes, of course. I'm going to campaign hard for yes, of course.
Not for your party, but for the...
Also for my party, of course. I'm also a member of City Council in Copenhagen, but I will also campaign for the European Movement.
Which party you represent?
Venstre, the Liberal Party.
The governing party?
Yes.
Okay. So you will have more ease to do the lobbying?
Yes, I will do everything possible to secure yes, because I think it's very important for Denmark.
Okay. Many people, both Danes and ethnic minorities, don't know much about this opt-outs and why we are going to a referendum. They only know what is in the media. Yeah. Can you please tell our viewers, what are those opt-outs which we said in many years back that Denmark would not
first of all, it's the Justice and Home Affairs, which is, for instance, what we're going to vote about now.
Sure.
Then it's also the Defense Cooperation, and it's the common currency, the euro. And right now we are taking the debate about the Justice and Home Affairs, which is what we're actually going to vote about, is mainly the European Police Cooperation, Europol, if we want to stay in that one or if we want to leave.
Okay. But what will happen to people's democratic rights if we become this supranational entity?
I don't think that much would happen, and that's not what we're going to vote about, actually. We're going to vote about a little corner in the European cooperation, actually a very practical one. It's about the Europol cooperation between the police in Europe. So it's actually much more practical than most of the EU policy, which can be difficult to understand and which is far away. This is actually very concrete compared to other areas of the EU policies.
But Jens, this is what you just said, that many people also ask. Brussels is there.
Yeah.
You know, they have nothing to do with us. Yeah. Is EU not part of us?
I think so, but many of the things the EU is doing is something we don't see. It's important for us. It's, for instance, the common market, which means that we can easily export our goods.
Sure.
It's not something you feel in the daily life, but you are affected by it because our companies and enterprises in Denmark, they're dependent on that. The same goes with a lot of standards the EU is introducing. It's not something you think about, but if we didn't have it, we would have a lot of problems in not only in Denmark but in the rest of the Europe. So sometimes EU is very important but invisible because we get used to all the good things we get out of the European cooperation.
So don't you think that the EU should be more forthcoming in telling what good things they do?
Well, I think they actually try to do that, but of course media, they would tend to focus on all the bad things, on all the scandals, all the misuse of public funds. They do that when it comes to European cooperation. They also do that to a certain extent when it comes to the national governments and to the municipalities.
But then the question is that parties like yours who are for yes and for more cooperation in European Union, why don't they make some more campaigns to tell people, hey, look, it's a good thing?
We also do that from time to time, of course. But now we have the chance because we're actually going to vote about it, and all the citizens in Denmark, they have to make up their mind about the European Union and to raise their voices. So now we have the opportunity to discuss it more than normally.
But the no lobby, when I listen to their arguments, you know, and they say that more EU will be more surveillance, you know, the more police cooperation and, you know, extradition of people, you know, they're like, is it right what they say, or is it only scare tactics?
I don't know what their tactic is, but I know what we're going to vote about, and that's actually if we want to stay.
But that is what people think, you know. That
but that's true, and that's actually the job from our side is to explain we don't get anything new by voting yes. We will keep what we have, and I think it's very important to keep what we have now in when it comes to cooperation between the police in Europe. We have a lot of benefits out of that. And if we want to keep Denmark as a safe country and keep the rest of Europe as safe places, we need to work together. And Europol is a very important tool in order to achieve that.
Sure.
And if we vote no, we will leave the Europol.
But some people say that instead of interstate cooperation, it will become a supranational cooperation where Denmark will have no say.
But no one wants this supranational cooperation. Of course, in some areas, the European Union would like to work more closely together. But they only choose to do that if there is a wish for that in the member states. And right now, frankly, there's a lot of EU skepticism, not only from the populations, but also from a number of EU states. So I don't think right now is the time where the European Union would like to take more initiatives and would like to cover new areas. I actually, frankly, fear that in some areas the European cooperation is going to be rolled back because there's so much skepticism from certain states.
That's not a good thing for you.
No, it's not. I think it's countries like United Kingdom, Hungary, and other EU skeptic countries. I think they are on the wrong direction. And I fear that the United Kingdom will also take EU in the wrong direction because we need more cooperation in some areas. We don't need a looser European cooperation. If we want to have a European voice in the world, we need to speak with the same voice.
But that's why when we had this refugee crisis, you know, asylum seeker was coming, people, all of a sudden there were 1,000 upon 1,000 people were coming. And then when we saw that EU didn't function, you know, Angela Merkel was saying one thing and Orban was saying another thing, David Cameron was saying another thing. And at one time Denmark didn't want to take any refugees, and then all of a sudden they want 100 and 1,000. Don't you think, Jens, that this kind of different voices coming from Europe confuses people?
Sure it does. And the reason why EU didn't do anything is because we didn't give EU the muscles to do something. We don't have.
Who is we?
It's Denmark, and it's also the rest of the European countries, because we could have given EU the tools to have a stronger cooperation. Because we need to work together if we want to find a solution here, and we need to work together if we want to find a solution on the cause of the problem, which is the crisis in Syria. That's not something we can find a solution on in Denmark. We need to work together, the EU, United States, and if we don't do it, nothing would happen in Syria and the disaster would continue, or Russia will sort out the problems. And I don't think it would be a good thing if Russia is sorting out the troubles in Syria.
Why is it so?
Because Russia doesn't want to have a democracy in Syria. They first of all think about their own interests, and for some reason their own interests coincide with Bashar al-Assad's interests in Syria, and that wouldn't happen. That would not result in anything good for Syria if he continues in power.
Jens, that was not the topic of our discussion, but let me take you on that.
Yeah.
Because according to my research and also what media talks, it is the West, including our little Denmark, who has created the issue in Syria by supporting those very fundamentalist organizations who were fighting. We giving them arms, ammunition. We sent F-16. So don't you think that we also have a little bit to blame to creating this issue?
Everyone is to blame. I think
Exactly.
if we should have found a solution in Syria, we should have done something in the beginning. Yeah. We have been waiting too long time, and now Russia is with their means is trying to get a solution on the conflict.
But they're fighting ISIS. Isn't it a good thing for that? They're doing our job.
Well, no one disagree on that. But the problem is that Russia is also fighting the democratic opposition in Syria.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Danish government claims that if we do not go in this cooperation, then Denmark specifically become a target of a lot of crimes, criminals coming from East Europe, coming from South. That is why we should do that. But countries who are not part of Europe, Norway, Iceland, Switzerland, they don't have more crime than Denmark has.
No, but it definitely would be more difficult for Danish police if they don't have access to the common databases of the Europol.
Don't they have now?
They have now,
yeah.
But if we get out of the Europol, they won't have this access. And one other important element of this is that we have far less police in Denmark than, for instance, Germany, also Switzerland, maybe also Norway. But we are one of the countries in Europe with the smallest police force.
But it's a peaceful country. Why
do
we need so much police?
But we also we actually is one of the countries which have most robberies in home robberies in the European Union. After Greece is Denmark. Okay. So it just demonstrates that if we want to fight those gangs who are coming from Eastern Europe, we need to work together with the police force. For instance, in Lithuania, in Latvia, and Romania, which we're doing today. And that's far more easier in the framework of Europol instead of bilateral agreements.
Okay. One of the objections to the Danish government, your government, is that they did not help the no lobby to raise awareness and use a lot of their power and their position to tell people, that yes is a good thing. Is there not a little bit imbalance between the no-sayers and the yes-sayers?
I don't think so, because Danish People's Party is the second biggest party in Denmark now. Yeah. And they have plenty of opportunities to raise their voices. And as you can see in the opinion polls, it doesn't seem like it's a problem for the no side. Okay. And all major organizations in Denmark, the trade unions, the business organizations, the political parties, a lot of organizations and people in Denmark are in favor of this. It's actually only some minor organizations plus Danish People's Party, which is campaigning for a no to the referendum. Yeah,
but they are not very visible in the media. Even during the Danish Parliament debates, they are only focusing on ethnic minorities and doping and not so much on this coming referendum, I think.
I think it will happen in the last weeks before the referendum, because it's a long time to debate one issue. Okay. So I think the last 2 weeks before the referendum, there you will see a lot of debate. And there's actually no sessions in the parliament 2 weeks before the referendum to give time for the politicians to concentrate on this one and only issue.
Okay. I want to come back to the police cooperation. The Swedish EU Commissioner Cecilia Malmström, she wants to have a EU police a kind of a unit which can cross borders, go here and there. It will be like a FBI in the United States. Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I think it's a good idea. If we really want to compete some of the hardest organized crime, we need to do that. We will never have anything comparable to the FBI because the budget of the European Union is less than 1% of the GDP of the whole EU. So we will never have anything which would look like the FBI. But I think we need some kind of small police force which can easily work across the European Union and find the causes of the organized crime. And there's a lot of problems in Eastern Europe and Southern Europe with this. And we're also affected by this in Denmark.
Yeah.
And we can't do anything on our own. It's also difficult if everyone have to coordinate with everyone. So if we could have something like Cecilia Malmström is proposing, I think that could be a good tool. Okay. But it's not something we need to fear. It would not be like an American movie.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
But you seem to be a quite progressive young man, and you believe in democracy in Syria or all over, and also in Denmark. Then tell me, why is it a good idea when they're planning to make a register, you know, where they will even register what you eat in the planes, you know?
Yeah.
I have a Muslim background. I travel a lot, you know. Yeah. And then they start registering what I ate, so because I must have a connection with terrorism. Do you think it's a good idea to suspect people and keep an eye on them, what they eat, what they don't eat?
There's a lot of surveillance and registration going on at the moment, and most of this is not something which is caused by the European Union. It's something caused by the national governments after the 9/11. Each and every state in the European Union introduced a lot of rules, which is, from my liberal point of view, is going too far. I don't think this is so important compared to other things where we see a lot of surveillance. And anyway, we know that the Americans they get the information anyway, and we're giving a lot of information to the American authorities right now regarding transatlantic flights and so on. So I don't think that is going to trigger so much actually.
But coming to this, listening to America most, EU is a counterpart to America. It's the United States of Europe. Why are we listening so much to what America says?
Well, because US is a very important partner for us. And if you look around in the world, well, trade-wise, but also when it comes to values, we have much more in common with United States than we have with Russia, with China, and other emerging powers around in the world. And the European population is decreasing. There's not so many Europeans as we used to be. So I think we need to stand together with those countries where we share a common ground when it comes to values. There's a lot of things where we can disagree with United States, but because we're strong partners, we can also tell the Americans when there's something we disagree on and when there's something we dislike. That's actually our obligations as good friends, I think.
Coming to a very important issue is that to fight against terrorism. I have an article here which you wrote in Jyllands-Posten, where you said that EU opt-out is in the way of terror, fighting against terror. Can you explain to me what you mean by that?
Why the EU is well, because we cannot do it on our own fighting terrorism. We need to work together with the rest of the EU countries.
Okay.
And therefore we need a stronger cooperation, both to coordinate between intelligence service and police, but also ultimately to be able to fight the roots of terrorism in other countries if necessary.
So roots of terrorism is poverty?
Yeah, well, sometimes it is. It's also extremism, which is also the roots of terrorism.
Sure, but extremism has also a roots. Why people, young people, all of a sudden become extremists?
It can also be one of the causes. Many terrorists, they come from Saudi Arabia, which is one of the richest countries in the world. So I think, well, poverty is one reason, and it's more easy to convince poor people to join Islamic State and other extreme organizations. but you also see persons grown up in Denmark, grown up in Saudi Arabia, who for some reason join terrorist organizations. It's not only persons with Muslim backgrounds, also normal Danish young people who join Islamic State. We have seen a couple of examples of that.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. Then comes the question of this supranational arrest warrant. You know? If you do something wrong in Bulgaria or in Denmark, wherever, do you think it's a good idea that we have this kind
we already have that now. It's actually a part of the EU today, and Denmark is taking part of that.
Okay.
And it actually works perfectly. There are plans to look into this European arrest warrant. One of the...
Can't it be misused?
Everything can be misused. One of the ways it's kind of misused today is that some countries, they use the arrest warrant to arrest people who have done small crimes.
Are political opponents also?
No, not really. But for instance, Poland is using it to get police criminals back to Poland from United Kingdom.
Okay.
And sometimes there's car thieves, people who are stolen a bike, and they use this arrest warrant to get them back to Poland. And the problem is that United Kingdom has to pay for that. And they have to pay the police to find those people and also to fly them back to Poland. And I think this is kind of misusing the system. Of course, they should be punished for what they have done, but sometimes there's a disproportionality in how much it costs to find a criminal, if it's, for instance, a car thief or some other petty crime. But I don't see this...
But can't it be done on a local level, you know? I mean, if somebody does something wrong here, you arrest that person and punish them.
Yeah.
Why it has to be on a supranational level?
Because if it's not on a supranational level, then the states are not obliged actually to follow the arrest warrant. Then it's just a piece of paper, but now they're actually obliged to do it. Denmark is getting, I think, it's around 50 people every year that we arrest and send to other EU countries. Okay. So it's not that many, actually. But United Kingdom, they are sick and tired of this system because they are arresting a lot of people, they are sending back to Eastern Europe, and they have to pay for it themselves.
But when you do a crime in a country, aren't you supposed to be punished there?
Yeah, of course you are. But if you if you go out of the country, and for instance Poland, they still want to punish this person, it's of course a good thing that they can ask, if they know this person is in United Kingdom or is in Denmark, they can ask the Danish police to arrest this person and get the person back. Okay. And before we got this system, it could take months and years even to get a suspected criminal back from another EU country. Okay. So today it's more effective.
You also said in your article that if Denmark goes out of Europol, it will become a center of Islamic terrorism. These are your words from Europosten.
Yeah.
Do you have any documentation for that, or it's a political statement?
No, it's quite well documented, because today the Danish police and Danish intelligence service, they can always go into the Europol databases and report a person if he is suspected for something criminal, or they can see if is this person suspected in another country. Yes. If we go out of Europol, we will not have access to this database. So it means that it would be much more easy to operate in Denmark for terrorists, but also for criminals, because it's much more difficult for the Danish police to get to know these persons. Okay. If a person arrives to Denmark who has some kind of criminal background or is suspected for terrorism, the Danish police, they can just look into the database and see, is there something about this person or is it unjustified?
But what does it have to do going out of Europol? If they have already all this information, then you don't need Europol.
Well, when we leave Europol, if we leave Europol, we won't have access to this information, and we can't search in this information because we don't have the right to do that, because we are not part of Europol.
Okay. The Danish Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, your party's Prime Minister, who supports a yes, has actually promised that EU will not get power over the Danish asylum policy if it says yes.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think you have to look into how the political realities are in Denmark, and this area is very sensitive.
Okay.
And there's no majority whatsoever for taking part in the cooperation in this field. I think it's better that we are taking part in Europol and the other parts of the justice and home affairs.
And also settling asylum seekers?
Yeah, well then, no, I don't think that's a political option. And right now we don't know how the EU policy is developing in this way. But I think it's very clever to put this question about asylum seekers and common policy in this area aside, and then discuss the things we can all agree about in the parliament.
Jens, I want you to look into the camera and tell our viewers why it should be a yes vote.
You should vote yes in the referendum because the most important question in the referendum is if we want to stay in the European Police Cooperation. And I think it's very important that we can work together with the police in the rest of Europe so we can keep Denmark safe and the rest of Europe safe.
Thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I hope that our viewers have heard very good arguments for a yes vote, but you decide when you go for a ballot, it is yes or no, but please do go and vote. Thank you very much. Until next time, take care.